Hey, guys and dolls. Before we jump into this episode, a note about our content today. This is created for adult audiences only. We advise listener discretion. So if you need a breather, take a break and come back later. This is your Pain Game podcast, where we talk about the game of living in and with chronic pain and trauma, getting to the heart of how to heal. I am your host, Lyndsay Soprano. On the show, I plan on discussing with doctors, chronic pain patients, holistic practitioners, loved ones, and anybody that is interested in having their voice heard in the chronic pain and trauma world that we live in. Suppression. Yes, stopping yourself from thinking or feeling something, which it seems like our whole entire planet seems to be doing sometimes, doesn't it? Is this suppression, though, conscious or subconscious, or is it both? How, when we choose to suppress a feeling or a thought, what's actually going on there? And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Over our lives, we all suppress some things. Let's be real. We all do it. So don't start pointing the finger at anybody else, right? Some more than others. I feel pretty damn confident that my suppression is at the Academy Award winning level. I've been working so hard on not suppressing anymore, though, and it is hard to do. And quite frankly, I've learned a lot on how to do that and how to let go and how to open up and how to be vulnerable and how to let the gates flow from the things that I've suppressed for so long because of this show and because of my guests and listeners. So I wanted to just take a quick second, throw you guys a plug and thank you for that, because I'm learning and growing every time I do this. But something that is a big hitting issue for all of us is that suppressing emotions actually endangers our health and our well-being, guys, right? Both physically and psychologically. Mental pain is sometimes so much harder than the physical pain, at least from my perspective. And I deal with, as you guys know, living in chronic physical pain. And I've been the queen of just sucking it up. You guys hear me all the time on the show saying that I'm a bite on the chick stick. It's true. I do that with my emotions. I do that with my pain. I do that with clients. I do that with money. I do it in so many places in my lives, even in my business. And now here I am, 45 years old, looking at myself going, wow, you could have experienced so much more life than you allowed yourself to do because I just sucked it up. And, that outward expression of suppression of mine led to behavioral issues from the get-go. Drug and alcohol abuse, like we've talked about, promiscuity, it's super fun if you remember half of it. Excessive spending, that was something that I dealt with a lot. And theft. I've not brought up the fact that I am a closet kleptomaniac as well. That's to this day. Surprise, surprise. It's the dangerous behavior that suppression can cause. And I'm the first person to say that that's what's happened to me. Was I trying to get attention? Probably in some places, especially when you're a young girl. I was hurting and broken at such a young age. And I feel like I was destined to have massive amounts of health issues. And so here we are, right? We're sick, we're broken, we're tired, and we're in pain, and we don't know why. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about this epidemic of suppression of our deepest mental struggles that have led us here. And I don't want you guys to be afraid to start to release. It can be scary, but we're here together. And my guest today is no stranger to trauma, deep and dark suppression, sexual abuse, addiction, anxiety, and disease. We're going to have quite the party here today. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you today to my guest, Kate Semeniuk. Hello, darling.
Hello, Lyndsay. I loved your introduction, by the way, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super thrilled to be here.
Well, thank you so much. We're thrilled to have you here. And you can tell she's got a little bit of an accent. Kate here, she grew up in Ukraine. She is a fear and anxiety expert, a certified hypnotherapist, and a licensed RTT, which is rapid transformational therapist. Kind of hit rock bottom in 2020, and we're going to talk about that when she found herself and her family in a complete isolation. And that's when everything crashed down on her, both physically and emotionally. And only through the personal growth and recovery that she went on, she was able to find the method that liberated her from this emotional pain and childhood trauma and from addiction since such an early age of 12. I identify, girl, when we talked about that, along with a decade long of depression. I wish mine was only a decade. So I am rolling out the red carpet for you right now. And I'd like to start with your early childhood trauma and what happened to you. And then let's take it from there.
Yes. Now that I'm talking about it, I really become really aware of what is happening in my body, right? Is it still triggering me? Are these memories are still triggering any emotions? And it's interesting then now it's mostly like given. People need to hear that. This isn't something that I've talked to my therapist, which was only for a couple of sessions because I'm very impatient. I don't I don't like to go to therapists for years and years and uncover and uncover and uncover. And then you become a therapist to yourself and you're super confused with where it all started. But for me, it started at a very early age. I was sexually molested. And at the age of 5, my parents don't know about it. So if they knew English, they would probably now find out about it. But I remember that day till now. I remember the colors. I remember the smell. I remember the weather. I remember everything. However, as I looked at it so many times, and I looked at it now and it was a little bit of a different perspective. Now understanding why that happened, that it was none of my fault. However, I really remember the most toxic feeling and emotion we could ever have: shame. Shame is like this little dinosaur inside. It really is hungry for our body and for our mind. And yes, I lived with that shame for so many years. But because at 5 years old, the logic is still not there, the intellect is not that developed. We live in all sensations and subconscious mind. Subconscious mind doesn't know how to deal with that. At 5, you are on the planet only 5 years. How can you know that, it's not about you. You shouldn't be blaming yourself. You're just a little girl in the circumstances, So no one knew that. No one told me about it. And I was absolutely ashamed to say that because at some deepest level, I realized that that was something that shouldn't have happened or something that you cannot just talk freely about.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. How in the world are you supposed to, especially at such a young age, conjure just even the guts to get up and go, this is what happened to me. And you don't even know whether you know in your heart of hearts that this was not something that should be happening to me. How am I safe anywhere?
Yes. And the trick about subconscious mind, which is a very good ability of the subconscious mind, is to never forget things. I'm sure that many people wish they could have forgotten about something from their past. They have this dream. I would say a little bit of illusion. Let me forget. Even people come to me for hypnotherapy and ask me, can I forget it? Can I just get it out of my mind? And the rule of the mind is that you cannot forget anything. You can only look at it differently. So that's what happens with the child. The child's mind cannot process something. It suppresses it. So puts it aside. It doesn't mean that you forget, but you put it aside. Let's associate it. I love associations. Subconscious mind works with associations and images. Let's put it as a capsule of those vitamins, the capsule. And so that capsule, just a little one, is in our mind. That trauma grows with us. As we grow, it grows. If it's not processed, at some point, when we are ready, so when we become more conscious, when we gain more wisdom, probably after 18, 21, maybe 25, for somebody it's 30, but we fully become aware of, okay, now the mind realizes that, you're ready to process it. Here you go.
Surprise, I'm giving you everything that you've suppressed now. Like for me, for 45 years, -9. So you guys do the math. From 9 years old till recent day, the massive amount of suppression that I've done, hiding, being scared, feeling shameful, feeling guilty, feeling all of these things that when you're at such a young age, processing them. I love that you use that word because you're not able to.
Exactly.
I'm just barely able to start getting ready to be doing something like this. And it is tough work.
Yes. And though the child accumulates these capsules, could be a criticism, could be bullying, could be on top of everything that happens. Now it's a snowball of different events. They're very similar with the similar beliefs that we believe about ourselves. I'm worthless. It's going to be like that forever. Something is wrong with me. I can't connect. I don't fit in. You name it all. It is there. And so when that happens, when we grow up, we start to feel the discomfort, anxiety, fears, avoidance, codependency, attachment. So all of these things are happening. We're like, why? What's wrong with me?
Right.
And because we love to compare ourselves to others, it's our hobby, it becomes our hobby. Let's compare ourselves to others. We start to look at other people, and other people, of course, come into the world, come into the community, come into the friendships, and they show the best parts of them. And so we believe that, they don't have that, and I do. They seem happier, and I'm not. And so that's when we start to realize that maybe there is something, maybe I'm different. Maybe there is something wrong with me. And so that even intensifies whatever the suppression it is. So when we don't listen to little fears, little behaviors, reactions, little emotions that are starting to rise up, or maybe anger, or maybe it's avoidance, the body decides to talk for us. So if we think about the levels, it's first comes the thought, that comes the emotion. The emotion comes from the thought. It just happens really quickly. So we only think that it's just an emotion. No.
Yeah, it's very blurry.
Very blurry, very fast, right? So the thought comes in, then the emotion accumulates into the feeling, and then the feeling then manifests into we feel it in the body. Maybe it's like a little tightness in the chest or whatever it is. And so when we don't hear the thoughts, we're not aware of them. When we are not looking at our emotions, we're trying to run away from them or suppress them. When we are, don't really process our feelings. And then the body is like, well, if you don't hear those, I'm going to talk to you in the method that you will not be able to ignore when it starts to be a physical pain. It's not because, and when we have a physical pain, people are like, oh, my body is failing me, it's betraying me. It's giving me all of these hard times. Like, what's wrong with my body now?
Yeah,
no, the body, right? The body just wants to help you. Okay, hear me out.
Listen to me. I've been whispering to you for some time now. So maybe you need to start listening to what's happened to you. And I mean, that's something that we talk about all the time on the show. The body keeps the score, that over all of the things. And the part that sucks about it is, especially when you're talking about young age trauma that happens to us, and both men and women, now we're starting to face these demons and these horrible things that happen to us. And I feel that podcasting has actually opened up a really neat space for us to start to heal, where we didn't really have this. I wouldn't have met you without doing something like this, right? And I think that when we find people, not unlike yourself, where we can identify and where we can feel like we're not alone, and that I can talk about being addicted to drugs. I can talk about being a kleptomaniac. I can talk about these things that I've been ashamed of or guilty of or scared to talk about now. And I start to feel lighter with each one of those things. Doesn't make it necessarily easier, but at least I know that I'm facing those dinosaurs, right? That have been so hungry and that are basically eating our bodies away, whichever way you look at it, whether it's emotionally, sexually, physically, whatever it is, our stuff, that stuff that we keep back there is in the background, eating away at our well-being, our mental health, and our ability to process the fun shit that's going on around us.
Yes. And if we look at it with compassion and with love. So, okay, thank you, body. Thank you for talking to me. Thank you for showing me, because the body cannot do it the other way. The language of the body is the symptom. That's it. The language of the body is the symptom. And if there is a symptom, we meet it. We are becoming aware of it. We bring it to the surface and we're like, oh, hello, symptom. Okay, what have I missed? Where did I miss the feeling or the emotion? So we start to be really more aware. I think that body really pain and physical pain teaches us to become more aware of what is not processed, what is suppressed, and what is not expressed at some point, and what is avoided, or what are we running away from.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you brought up about what you're running away from, because, and I think I've mentioned this on an episode or two before, but I was talking to somebody months and months and months ago about the fact that my pain started in my feet. and it's gone up through my legs and up into my hips and up into my arms and all of that. My feet and my legs are the worst, as we've mentioned. But she said, well, a lot of times when people have so much pain in their feet, it's because they're unable to move forward. Lyndsay rolls her eyes because that's so incredibly true, right? Stuck. You and I talked about getting stuck and how we can get unstuck from disease and pain, because I can't even believe how paralyzed I've been and how I've let it get to a place where it's screaming so loud at me and I still make some dumb decisions. I'm doing far better, but there are still things that I can be better at. And I'm like, wow, it's still not loud enough for you right now, lady? Like, what is wrong with you? Why do we hold on to that stuff?
Yes.
Why do we do that?
Beautiful, Lyndsay. I think this is one of the most incredible questions because really people think, okay, well, why do I still, if I hear that voice, if I know that my symptoms are talking to me to maybe rest, recover, whatever. So why is because the subconscious mind, the 95% of our mind loves what's familiar. So if familiar is avoidance, if familiar is suppression, then it's going to only draw you towards that familiar, because the subconscious mind only works, it doesn't know time. So our subconscious mind doesn't understand the consequences. So for example, the subconscious mind made the belief that this cigarette or this shot of vodka is going to help you release some of the pain. It's going to help you to forget or maybe make it a little bit easier, right? The subconscious mind locks onto it. It's like, okay, well, this helps.
As long as I have a shot of vodka or 8, this is going to be my happy place.
Yeah, we remember we got so much happier. Oh, it got so much better. Let's do it again.
So sexy.
Yes.
No, you weren't.
Exactly.
No, you were not.
But the mind really believes in that. And so the mind doesn't know time. The subconscious mind doesn't understand that in the future, it can harm your body. In the future, you're going to feel guilt. In the future, it doesn't know. It's only the logic, the conscious mind that realizes that. But the subconscious mind will win the more unaware we are. The more unaware we are, then 10 out of 10, the subconscious mind will win. And then we're going to get frustrated why we still did the same. So in order to break that, to interrupt that pattern, you have to make new pattern familiar by repetition. That's it. That's the first one. And people will like, well, it's so hard. You have to be consistent, for at least a month.
No vodka, just red wine.
Yeah.
That's a decision.
Yeah. But as soon as mind locks, for example, long ago, I used to go and smoke when I was stressed. At some point, I stopped smoking and I still was kind of drawn to it. Of course, the craving. But at the same time, I felt better. So I started to breathe easier. I started to let my skin clear. Like all of these benefits are starting to show up approximately like 2-3 weeks after you stop smoking.
Yeah, it's not like this big, long thing. You start reaping benefits pretty quickly when you start changing some bad behavior.
Yes, right? You start to have more energy. You start to have more, and then your mind starts to build new pathways. Oh, this could be good. This is also good. This is much better. So that's by repetition of the new behavior, of the new response, it works. But another question arises. Well, how do I get consistent with repeating it all?
I know, especially when we have 5,000 tools being thrown us out a day. They're like, okay, if you wake up and you do this and this and this, and that, by the time it's 10 a.m., I've already done 5 hours of work on like meditation, infrared sauna, doing a hot tub, getting in this, journaling, reading that. I'm like, this is a full-time job just to take care of my health and well-being. And it never was. And so I know that time is a challenge for a lot of people. And it's a lot of things we always say, well, I don't have time to do that. I'll do that next week. We put things off, we procrastinate, and that stuff builds up too. How do we build that resiliency almost up against ourselves? Like we almost have to like develop another person within ourselves to be like, okay, like Lyndsay's got to find another Lyndsay here that's going to only stick up for the good things.
Exactly. And that's when I also got into that trap of trying all of these methods at the same time. So what comes in? More overwhelm. And so you choose one that you feel works the best for you. If it's a hot tub, then do it every day. Just a hot tub. If it's a meditation, do it for a month, but just meditation. I'm going to just commit. The mind will draw you away from commitment for a couple of hours. The mind doesn't like that. Subconscious mind is like, I want a result now and here. It's very insatiable. It only knows now and here. It doesn't know that you're like, oh, for the future, it's going to have some benefits. No, the subconscious mind, if we want to work with the deepest, strongest mind that we have, we need to give it like little glimpses of something, 15 minutes. If it's a hot bath, half an hour a day. And that's it. And then you see, okay, in the 1 month, I felt this kind of a difference. Let's now try something else. And then you see in a month, in a year, you've tried 12 amazing methods and you choose one and you stick to that one. But no, we want it right now. We want it right now and right here.
Absolutely. Well, and that's where the addict comes into play. And so, and I know that you had a drinking problem, and I myself included. And, it's just one of those things where, oh God, you latch onto it because you know that it will give you that little dopamine hit. It will give you that, it's safe, it's warm and fuzzy. You also know that it can also lead to bad things, but we're not that person anymore. So we're going to be okay. But it still brings you down a dark and twisty path. It's just a different one. You're like, geez, Louise, take a breath. It's exhausting. Yeah. It's exhausting when you hop on the addiction wheel because of it. And like you're saying, your brain kind of goes, ooh, baby, I think I'm going to do this. But you can also get the ooh, baby doing something else. Exactly. That is the switch that has to happen, where you find yourself addicted to something else. Now, that doesn't mean go out and go to the gym for 10 hours a day either. Like you can go to the wrong side. Exercising doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthy either, because there's all kinds of bad, healthy places that you can go where initially it starts out as a good idea and it's actually ends up being to your detriment as well. So,
and that's because the root cause of the addiction is still there. So you stop one behavior, you stop smoking, then you stop drinking, you stop shopping excessively. But then you go and you turn it into some other excessive or obsessive behavior.
Right.
Then why? Because the mind still wants the release of something that is suppressed. So expressing means that you are bringing it to the surface. You're not afraid of all of those emotions that you couldn't express. You look at that and you make a different meaning out of it. So when I look at that sexual abuse that I had, I now look at it and I was like, well, my body is for rent anyway, only for a couple of years, maybe what, 80, 85, 90, 100 if I'm very lucky, but it's for rent. So it's not like, it doesn't have to mean that I am worthless. It doesn't make me less, but consciously we already know that. So that's why I like hypnotherapy, because it makes it deeper. You have a deeper understanding of the root cause, and then you change, you replace it with a new belief, and then you repeat and repeat for 21 to 30 days, new belief. And your mind only learns by repetition. So it surrenders.
Well, okay. So I would like you to talk about hypnotherapy, because I know people have different visions of what that actually is. I know there's a lot of people, this might be something that's just in the States, but we do something called grad night. And when you graduate from high school, you get locked into some dumb place. I was never into any of this stuff. But anyway, you get locked into some dumb place and you go and you play games and all this stuff. Nevertheless, there's always going to be some hypnotist that comes in and hypnotizes the football players to become ballerinas on stage and make everybody laugh. All right. So if we're taking something like that, which is basically a childhood memory that I think a lot of us have some cliche, kind of lame version of hypnosis like that, I'd like to clear the airwaves of that right here and foremost, because that is a completely different thing in my mind than what you do and what you work on. And I want you to talk about RTT as well.
Yes, there is a little bit of a history to that. After the Second World War, during Second World War, hypnotherapy was one of the main methods how people worked with PTSD. The main methods, because people realized logically that, okay, I'm in a quiet place now and in a safe place, but I still live in a war environment in my mind. So the war is still happening, it's still going on. So hypnotherapy helped them to close their eyes, to go into that light, relaxed state, to really process all of the events in a safe place with the hypnotherapist. But in about 1950s, right, the first antidepressants were invented, right, brought into the world. The psychotherapy became more popular. And so a lot of hypnotherapists lost their jobs. And so a lot of them became stage hypnotists. entertainment. Well, if I can do that, right, I can do that with like entertainment, right? So they started to form these entertainment hypnotists. However, hypnotherapy now gains even more popularity because people realize that that's not the same as, barking on the stage, like a dog, or dancing like a ballerina, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So usually hypnotherapy has different methods. And so some methods include a deep trance. Some method, it includes light relaxed state. The RTT method is a light relaxed state. It's a state of heightened awareness. We so miss that awareness in our life. So when we go into hypnotherapy, it's not like I am hypnotizing them. No, I'm helping clients to go into that state of mind. So I'm guiding people to relax and go into that state of mind where we can process some memories, when we can change the perception of the past so that they can move on. So in hypnotherapy, the client doesn't do what he doesn't want to do.
Oh, I like that you say it that way because you kind of feel like almost like they're going to take you to where they want the person to go to for the entertainment value, which is, I think, something that needed to be debunked, especially for this conversation, because that's what it just comes with a nasty tagline associated with it. And I definitely wanted to clear the air on that.
I agree. Yeah, Lyndsay, I agree that usually in hypnotherapy, we go with the client wherever they go.
Yeah, I mean, why would I want to go on your crazy journey when I've got my own that I'm dealing with?
Yes. So usually hypnotherapy is a therapeutic method, and people really recognize that it's so much faster. It doesn't eradicate the importance of the therapy, but very often we go to therapy sessions for 10 years. Isn't that another type of addiction?
Well, everybody
addicted to
just
therapy.
spit their coffee out on their lap or ran their car into a curb. So everybody take a beat on that one. Dear Lord.
Imagine you are having some problems. For example, you're having a fear or you're having depression. And so every 2 weeks, by schedule, you're going to your therapist. And then you come home, you feel like, yes, I'm motivated. I'm going to make some changes. I realize something. And then when something happens, when the trigger happens, I'll just go to Jane, and talk to her. I'll bring it up next week. So what? We are again putting the responsibility for our own healing on someone.
Yeah. And that's a good point because when you think about it, when it comes to addiction, I was going through some of my old, I have one journal that I use with my therapist that I use, and I'm on a break right now with him because I find it to be, I get to a point where I'm like, okay, so I'm saying the same thing this week that I said last week, and I've made no progress. And I'm frustrated. And I love my therapist. He is freaking amazing. I can be 100% vulnerable with him. There's no lies, there's no covers, because I think that you do that in CBT anyway. Sometimes people are like trying to show off for their therapist, or they're trying to make their therapist happy. And because of shame and guilt and all these things. And I learned that through mine, that there were things that I wasn't sharing. And so I was like, well, that's not going to help if I'm not telling my owl. He knows who he is. He listens to this show. I love you. He has helped me in so many ways. But yeah, you kind of get fatigue. And I almost feel like they might get fatigued too. Like, oh, great. All right. It's Lyndsay. I got to talk about the same fucking thing I talked to her about last week. Right. Oh, it's so good to see you today. And he's not like that with me at all. But I feel like you can get into those types of relationships where you're basically almost, you're so reliant on that you're not really making as much forward progress as you might want to. And there's a lot of people in my world that are doing just that. They're cutting out CBT and they're like, I got to do something else because I'm tired of reading back in my journal from 6 months ago and literally the same freaking people, the same freaking problems are on my list. And I've done nothing to really unpack that and really deal with what that actually means to me and my well-being, not what it means to everybody else that I'm having problems with in their well-being, because I'm a people pleaser and I take everybody, I take care of everybody before me. So I know. Hypnotize me out of that, all right?
Sometimes people call me and they also say like, well, I have been in therapy for many years, and they ask me about like, okay, so how many times will I come to you?
For 7 years.
And I was like, okay, so you come for a session and I don't want to see you again. And they are so shocked. They're like, why? Like, how? I was
Because
like,
I
well,
honestly hope that you don't have to see me again.
yes, because I say my job is to show you the root, the reason, and what to do. And then you go into the life and make life your therapy because life is the therapy. And by the way, I had lots of therapists who sent me the clients who said, okay, Kate, I worked with this client. I feel there is a resistance in the mind. Let's go. Take them, work with them, and they come back with maybe more awareness, with more understanding, and then they make changes. So I consider hypnotherapy as it's an addition to the therapy that makes the therapy work even better. Because you come after the hypnotherapy session, you come to your therapy sessions, it's like, you know what? I got it. I know something. I found out something that I didn't. So let's talk about that. And so they really facilitate, right? It intensifies the amazing effect of just the talk therapy. So hypnotherapy goes alongside science, alongside psychotherapy.
I think that's great for you to say that too, because there isn't just one all fits all either. And we, like you say, you got to try this on, you got to try that little guy. Like women know this. First pair of jeans you try on are never going to work. It's just not. Men, they go pick up their 31, their 34, whatever the hell they wear, and it fits perfectly. It drives me insane. No size fits all, especially for women. But it is interesting that, in doing the show and speaking with people, how many more women are in this place of dis-ease and in illness. And all of a sudden we take on far more than men do, in my opinion, because we're covering so many different places between kids and dogs and jobs and work, and we're taking on the same amount of workload as they are, but we're also running a home and all of these things. And I'm not saying that men don't do anything, because that is not at all where I come from. We just have to train you all to do it the right way. But when it comes to women being sick and repressing, do you find that in your practice that you get more women than men in your practice?
The interesting part is that I get more men than
That's
women.
what I wanted to know.
Right? For one reason.
That's what I wanted to know. Thank you. What is it? Because I'm dying to know for a line.
Okay, because women put themselves aside.
Yep.
But later.
Ding, ding,
No. This time is the, basketball club for my daughter. This year is something else. Next month, I will take care of myself. I know it's important, yes, but it's not about me now. I have to deal with my mom, with my dad, with my friends. No. I'm moving. Whatever it is, they always find something that they feel like, oh, my needs will be put aside. But man, maybe yes, maybe it's a combination of the nature, the hormones, that they're more decisive. But that doesn't mean that we cannot become decisive as well. Yes, we do feel this world deeper. It's true. Our nurturing side will show up. And then because we feel this world deeper, yes, we feel the pain deeper as well.
Well, we handle pain totally different. I mean, in my opinion, as a whole, I'm like, wait a second, my sweetie, he gets a paper cut and we're going urgent care instantaneously, you know? And I'm bleeding out of my ears and my legs are broken. And I'm like, all right, we can do one more lap, But that again solidifies what you just said in regards to we do put ourselves on the bottom of the barrel and we put everybody ahead of ourselves. And I've been trying to reverse that in my life. I don't have children, thank God, but I do have a lot of nieces and nephews that I love as my own. And it's a lot of work, no matter which way you look at it, whether it's your job, your kids, your dogs, your this or that, we're all given this world the best that we can. But man, if we're not giving it to ourselves first, then the trickle down is horrible. Everybody else, when we start taking care of ourselves better, everybody wins. Everybody wins.
Yes. And even if we take those moms who have kids, show your kids that you're putting yourself first so they can put themselves first.
Right. Otherwise, they're just going to do the same thing that you're doing. And, So, okay, because that's in a way that's suppressing too, because we're suppressing our needs. And then we get resentment and then we get anger. And what does anger do? Well, it goes into your skin and your bones and your muscles. It goes into everything. And then it fuels resentment and then it fuels behavior issues. And then you blow up and now you're all mad and you don't even know what you're mad at anymore. It just, the toxicity of that ends up sitting in our bodies and creates disease and illness. It's pretty remarkable. I value our body and its amazingness, the brain, all of it, so much more than I used to by getting sick for starters, but also by trying to not be sick and to try to help it. Our bodies are so incredibly, immaculately wonderful, and we don't treat them that way.
Yes. And also, there is a narrative that, oh, if you have a chronic illness, that's going to take years. Doctors, people will tell you not as well to disregard the doctor's job. Their job is to treat the symptoms and to make you feel better. So from that place, you can make some decisions, or maybe you can investigate more into your health. But usually there is a narrative that it's going to take years. It's going to take months. But since the healing is initiated in the subconscious mind, and subconscious mind doesn't know time, how then someone knows how much the healing is going to take based on the research? If we take the percentage of the people who come to doctors and the percentage of people who don't go to doctors, we can't even make that assumption that, oh, this disease takes this much recovery time. This is only based on the people who come to see the doctor. But there are so many people who don't come to the doctor and they recover. And we don't take those because they don't come. They're not in the statistics. So the subconscious mind, right? It doesn't know time. So the healing will happen within us, doesn't know time as well. It can happen for years or it can happen for hours. So when we release that belief, you start to really believe in your own body and the healing powers. It doesn't have to be months. Who told that? Just a couple of experts? That doesn't mean that it's instant truth. And so we start to what? We start to really believe in ourselves. And so the body, when we believe in the body, is like, oh, the healing is happening. Then we start to feel better. Yes, body is supposed to be more inert. Like it does follow a little bit later. The thought comes in, right? The emotion, the feeling, and then the body. Yes, when our thoughts change, the emotion change, the feelings change, and then the body follows. But we've seen different ways and cases where people just woke up and they felt better. They feel so much better.
Yeah, dropping those narratives that either your self-talk can be good for you or it cannot be.
Yes.
And it's something so simple and it's so silly. Like I just picked up a book for my best friend and I called Mirroring. And it's just this book about standing in front of the mirror and doing affirmations by looking at yourself in the eyes. And it is so uncomfortable. I feel so silly doing it. And I felt so dumb starting it. And I was like, oh my God, totally lame. And I'm into woo-woo stuff, right? I'm into all of it. I felt so much better after doing it for one morning because all I did was start my morning telling myself that I loved myself. It was like the simplest thing. And it just shifted my mindset right from the beginning of my morning. And so then everything that I did throughout the day yesterday was with intention for me to love myself more and to take care of my body more and to not cancel the dentist appointment because we all do it. And I've canceled it and rescheduled. And so yesterday was that day where I literally was planning the day before I already had my finger on the button to reschedule, right, for the next day. And it really came down to I'm starting to think from my head down instead of my feet up because my pain started in my feet. And so I started there. I started to work on, well, how can I get rid of pain? What's wrong with my feet? What's wrong with my feet? What's wrong with my feet? Oh, well, great. Now it's up into my legs. Oh, well, what's wrong with my legs? I didn't start with my heart and my head. And it's something that's just recently shifted where I'm like, I'm going to start top down instead of bottom up because I got to work with my brain and my subconscious and all of the things that these narratives that have been driven into me or narratives that I've driven into myself where I'm always going to be wild and crazy, Lyndsay. I mean, let's be real here. Like I'm not going to lose myself. But that was part of what where I was a little bit hesitant to do the work because I was afraid that I wasn't going to be wild and crazy, Lyndsay, that I wasn't going to be crazy and outspoken, that I wasn't going to love my trucker mouth, that like all these things I was going to turn into this like shell of a person that was not who I was. And I had to move through that fear of becoming somebody different, but it wasn't becoming somebody different, it was just becoming a healthier version of me. So when it comes to people working with you, and I know that you went through a decent amount of addiction and a lot of that came from trauma, which we've talked about. So how did you get yourself to a place that you were ready to rock and roll so that you could help others get to the place that you're at?
Yeah. So my husband used to tell me, we met very early. I was about 18. Yeah, I was 18 when I met my husband and he always told me, I know. And so he told me all the time, Kate, like you connect to people so well. You should be a psychologist. In Ukraine, in 2005, being a psychologist, it's a very, it wasn't that widespread and it wasn't popular. And it was something from the woo, even the psychotherapy at that time. And I was like, no way. I'm going to be someone else. And I was someone else for many, many years. And then he kept repeating that. He kept repeating almost every 2-3 years, think, Kate, you should look into therapy. And then the COVID hit and we were already in Canada. And so we were locked, of course, in our house. It wasn't that strict here, right? Here in Calgary, we could go for a walk. It wasn't like we were locked. We could go into barbecue to our friend's house and do it outside. Like it wasn't a problem. But the thing is, we slowed down. We slowed down from the rat race.
Yeah.
And when you slow down, there is nowhere to go but inwards. And then when I looked inwards and I realized, wow, everything that I thought would make me happy doesn't make me happy anymore. Anything can be taken away from me like this, like with a click. And that realization probably brought me so down. Like I was like, all of my belief system crashed. Everything I believed in stopped being important to me. Money, not important. Achievements, not important. The job, not important. Like everything kind of became frustrating and became annoying me. So I was really frustrated. I was an angry woman. For those couple of months, I was such an angry woman that my husband finally told me, Kate, I cannot help you. Go and look for help. And that's how, I don't know, maybe angels, maybe my soul was just drawn towards hypnotherapy. And it was a course of hypnotherapy audios and recordings that you do it by yourself at home, kind of a self-hypnosis audios.
Yeah.
With some explanations and with some lectures. And that's how I started to feel like, wow, this is so much faster. The instant release. I started to feel that you can feel better so much faster. How is that possible?
No kidding.
From a deep depression, from drinking still. I had this strong pick in my skin. I had this habit, right, to release the pain as well. Because I wasn't smoking. I had a child and Marco was 1 year old. So I was breastfeeding. I didn't smoke, right? So everything kind of was on me. But when I tried that, I realized that, wow, it's possible. Instantly, probably in a couple of weeks, I realized that this is what I want to do.
Wow.
And that's how I realized that I want to help people. If it helped me, it can help other people as well.
I love that. Can you really quick I want to send some people to where you are and how to find you, but can you give us here, I know not everybody watches the news or listens to the news, but I would like to give just a little mini throw out to the Ukraine because I don't know where else I could do it. But could you just give us a little rundown from your perspective? And I know you've got family over there, just rundown real quick. I don't want to give it too much light, but I also want to give it some as well.
Yeah, it really still breaks my heart that something like this is still happening in the world. And as much as I would love to change it, and I would love to, to stop this war, the only thing I can do is help with mental health. And it has been my dream to help people from Ukraine once they do realize that, wow, hypnotherapy can be really good for trauma. But in terms of what is happening in Ukraine, it's a full-blown war. War that is happening right in the center of Ukraine, right in the center of Europe. And without the help of Europe and states and all the countries, right, that are helping us, we probably would have lost that game. Even with our bravery, even with the courage, we need help. And everyone helps really as much as they can, as much as they want. But this is how we still hold on. Courage, bravery, desire for freedom, desire to finally break out of that, let's just say, narcissistic abuse from that country.
Yes,
like we really want to be free, and I think that holds us and the help. And I think that at some point everything is temporary. Really, everything ends at some point. The consequences we will see. Yeah. The only thing we can do right now is really support and really be compassionate, and that will help a lot. I have moved to Canada in 2016. So I really didn't see, I didn't feel, I didn't experience the horror that is happening right now. But from what my parents tell me, and they are in a more safer place, that it is really devastating how half of the country is destroyed, really. The probably the time that will be needed to rebuild. But I think that anything can be rebuilt as soon as you're free. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that's a good way to round it out, because it really does that. The word freedom, and freedom from fear, and freedom from pain, and freedom from PTSD, freedom from trauma, freedom from all of that it is hitting places all over the world. And it's people like you that help us get out of that. And so thank you for being here. And I don't like to use the words, our thoughts and prayers, because that's what we do after every school shooting here in the United States. But legitimately, my thoughts, my prayers, our hearts are out to you guys. And, on behalf of myself and many others that feel the same way, we love you guys and we got your back.
Yes. And it's really nice to know that a lot of people really have that very firm, position regarding what is happening. That's what's important to us and to Ukrainian people as well, that the world realizes how bad it is, realizes that Ukrainian people just want freedom and be independent. And I think that any help right now is huge. It's any dollar that goes to help Ukrainian people is a huge help.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been incredible, but we knew it was going to be together. We were so excited to do this episode today. So let's talk about how we can find you. I know you've been working on a program for women. You've been talking about nervous system deregulation and how to reset out of pain. Can you give us a little bit of what you got going up? I know you are sold out on what you've got going on. So can you give us a little bit about that? And then we will head on out of here today.
Yay. So I'm launching the next cohort, right, of the program in the end of January. If this episode comes out before that, please sign up. This is a 6-week program for women to come out of trauma, to come out of suffering, to come out of the victim role that we all carry just because we didn't have any choice when we were kids. And they can find me on my website. I'm very active on social media. They can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, and of course on my website, katesemeniuk.com. I work online and in person in Calgary, so people can work with me from any destination in the world.
I will put all of her stuff in show notes and in social media. Thank you so much for your time today. This has been spectacular.
Thank you so much, Lyndsay. It was so much pleasure. It was so much fun being here. And I'm sure that the audience will take some takeaways and learn something about themselves.
I don't know how they couldn't. Yeah, this was wonderful. Thank you so much. You are exclusively invited to share this subconscious awareness, mindful VIP pain journey together. Let's get to the heart of how to heal with you by mine and Kate's side. Do you know someone who is living in and with chronic pain or is struggling with health challenges or trauma? If you do, please send them our way. Kate and I are here, both of us. You can slip into our DMs on Instagram. You can email me. I'm happy to connect you with Kate as well. I'd love to connect with anybody with their heartfelt stories of strength and wisdom. I'm here to provide a safe place to help you unleash and digest and be vulnerable to help your body heal. Please follow the Pain Game Podcast wherever you digest your podcast content. We will be there. Visit us at thepaingamepodcast.com and follow us on all the socials. Thanks for listening, my little VIPs. Catch you on the other side.